Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to my channel, and today in this video we are going to build a functionality which allows us to map an issue to an estimate. So the thing is, if I don't have a relation between an estimate and an issue, then how would I create that relation? So I'll show you my ticket. So we have delivery estimates, and that estimate is related to an issue. Okay, and issues will have multiple time entries. So this relation is something which I need to store over here. Okay, now I initially thought it will be a pivot table, but I can see that I can do it with a slight change in the issue table, because I just need, it's a like one estimate, one issue is mapped to only one estimate. It is not a many to many kind of a relationship. So what we will get away with a simple relationship. Okay, so what I will do is, in this particular video, I'm first going to do the development, because I would need to explore a little bit on the component side as well. Now I am going to make certain changes to the live wire component. So in this particular area, I still am not very sure about a TDD approach, but definitely later on I will cover everything that I have written through tests. So let's get started. So now I would want a drop down over here, which is allowing me to select the estimates. So what I would do is, inside my GitLab issue view component, first of all, I will have one more item called estimates. And what I would also do over here is, during the mount, I will get the estimates. Because it is going to populate a drop down, I just need the ID and the title. In my mount, I get the project ID, so this should be fine. And I do a get. Okay, so with this, we should have the data which will allow us to populate a drop down. So now let me open up the blade for this component. Okay, I have my ticket details. I'll put this inside the condition. Maybe not. I can keep this outside, that's fine. There will be one more new block which is for estimate. So what am I doing over here? I have this h2 title for estimate, then I'm planning to map the value of this select to a variable called estimate ID. Then I have my options for that select. Okay, I'm looping through the estimates which I have created over here. And if the current estimate ID is equal to the issues estimate ID, then we do a select, which means if the value already exists. All right, so now this is something which doesn't exist. We will have to create this, because we want to store the value of the select somewhere before we hit the save. So I can do something like this: estimate ID equals this issue estimate ID or null. Now I know this column doesn't exist. I'm just planning out my code. There is only one small change which I need to do in the migration, and I will make the change in the migration because so far I haven't kind of gone production, so I can still make changes to my existing migrations. That's the advantage that I have. But obviously, if for you it is not the case, right? Typically, if we have gone live, then we will need to create an additional migration where we are just adding that particular column. So after close by, what I will do is I'll have a foreign ID for estimate class. and it can be null, and I'll index it because there will be a lot of where clauses with this. All right, this is done. Let's look at the component now. We have only one estimate, so that is a bit difficult to work with. Why don't we have one more? So I'll go over here, MVP estimates, and I'll have one more called auth module maybe. Just copy this. I'll say I'll take about 20 hours, just like that. And now if I go to any ticket, for example, even on the same one, right, I can see this thing. Question is, we have this drop down, and how do I save the updated data? So for this, what I'm planning to do is, if you see over here, I have a live thing, which means any change would allow me to immediately tap into it. And live by component does have an interesting method called updated, or rather updating. So what happens is, inside my updating, I'll just show you. So if I have a method called updating, it gives me two parameters. The first one is attribute name. The second is the value. Okay. So for example, if I just log $attribute, does it take a comma? I have never tried that out. Message array. No. So I'll just add the second one. Okay. Let me open up my log file. Yes, this is clean. So now if I make any change, can you see it says estimate ID? That is the attribute, and this is the value. If I change it to this, it gives me 1. So I can tap into this. What I can say is that if $attribute ID attribute is estimate ID, then do something for me, which is issue, where obviously I need to update the issue, right? That's the migration that we changed, this column, right? So where ID is this issue ID, update estimate ID with the value. All right. So now what will happen is, let me also open up the database. I have issues. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 issues are null. Let's try with the merge request data. Merge request data. For some reason, I'm saying it is belonging to the auth module. Now I've saved, come into my database, and this didn't happen. Wow. Why is that? Is there any error? Let me see. Attribute. Okay. The autocomplete sometimes does get it wrong, because you need to be a bit careful, obviously. So now if I do this, I see the value being changed. Map project to a client. Okay. Map project to a client. This is time entry feature. Hit refresh and I can see it mapped to 1. And if I want, I can change it and it updates over here as well. And if I refresh, obviously the correct value is always selected. All right, so now a few quick changes to support the code that we have written. For example, we have introduced a new column. So first I will go into my issue and I'll have estimate ID. I'll open up issue factory. Estimate ID. Okay, the factory and the issue model is done. In my issue model, I'll need to add a relationship. like so, and then add the opposite relation over here. So okay, so now what do we need to do to kind of test these? First of all, model estimate test. Why don't we add a relation test in this? Has many issues. How do we do that? Estimate factory has issue factory, create, I'll take 3 issues in here. Now I expect estimate issues that each of them, okay, because I have created multiple issues for an estimate, right? Okay, I didn't have a semicolon. So each issue should be an instance of the issue class. This is what I want to test. Let's see. Okay, this is done. Similarly, the other one, which is model, this was estimate, so model issue test. I'll need to have the belongs to test over here. So how do we do that? $issue equals issue factory. I'll do a for estimate factory create. Okay. And then I expect that the issue estimate to be an instance of the estimate class. So let's see. Yeah. And we have a green. All right. So these are the relation level tests. And this is something which we have done quite a few times, but the one particular test which I wanted to look at, which is related to the component, is how we can test that first of all it renders the component on that particular page, and then that it updates the estimate ID when selected. So I'll first create a test inside components folder. This video is getting quite long, so I will put the code in and then I'll explain you. So the first thing that I have done is I created an issue for a project. Then as a logged in user, I'm going into the issues show page and I'm asserting that I can see this livewire component. This is the very basic test that livewire gives us to assert that the component is getting rendered. It doesn't check for any text or anything. We are just asserting that this component is there. And obviously this will pass. As you can see, there's a green to it. Okay. The next thing is it updates the estimate when ID is selected. So what happens is, now in any kind of component, this is something which I have learned from a course from Jeffrey Way, where he was showing how to test view components. And one thing which stuck in my mind is that you always test the behavior of the component based on the data. Okay. And with that concept in my head, what I did, and again, I'm not very good with component testing or front end testing. So there can be better ways. And if that is the case, do drop a comment and I'll try to validate that. But what I did is I created this estimate, obviously. I created an issue which is mapped to that estimate. Then acting as a user, blah, blah, blah. I think I didn't need that, but still. I loaded the component, and this is the syntax where we can pass data to the component. What does that mean? Well, our component on the mount is expecting project, issue, estimate ID, estimates, these kind of stuff, right? So, and also in the mount, right? Sorry, my bad. So these are the properties which I have, and on the mount, I am making certain changes. So when I pass this data to this component, what will happen is the component will render with this data. Okay. And then I change the data with this set method. So I initially rendered the component with estimate ID as 1 because this is the first estimate. And then I made a change. I set the data of estimate ID to be 2. Now, because I have this updating method which is looking for a change in estimate ID, what will happen is this will trigger the updating function. And after that, what I'm asserting is that once this updating is done, I can see that I have an ID, I have an issue with ID this, and its estimate ID is 2. And this is all that I thought will allow me to test that the component's behavior about selecting the estimate can be tested with. And yeah, that's what I wanted to cover in this video. This is how I did the mapping of an issue with an estimate. So yeah, that's about it, guys. That's what I wanted to cover in this video. If you like this video and the series so far, then do click on the thumbs up icon and don't forget to subscribe to my channel.